Good evening, and welcome once again to Happenings in Medfield. A special guest, yet a very familiar face in Medfield. You all know him. Actually, he wears two hats. Name, Ron Griffin. And it's always my pleasure to be sitting here at the anchor desk with Ron. So without further ado, good evening, Ron.
Good evening, Jack. Thank you again for having me.
Ron, I originally noticed that you announced the Veterans Property Tax Work-Off. It's a program, and I'd like to begin our discussion today on that subject. Can you begin with an overview?
Yes, certainly, Jack. Last year at the annual town meeting, our citizens voted to adopt state legislation that allows the town to establish a program that allows veterans to work off hours in exchange for a reduction in their property taxes. The legislation didn't stipulate how the program was to be implemented. That itself was left up to each town. So I've worked with the assessor's office and the council of aging and with the selectmen. I've appeared in front of them several times, and I've made one of the concerns that we had was that we wanted to make sure the program that we came up with was not in conflict or would disrupt or compete with the current similar senior tax work-off program that we have. So what we ended up with was two programs. The obvious void here was that veterans who are under the age of 60 didn't have any kind of program for them. So we ended up making two programs, one for veterans 60 and older, which would be incorporated within the senior tax work-off program, and the other would be a program for those under age 60 so that they could participate in the program. And it's a separate work-off program, but so there's two programs, and we're trying to launch that.
So, no matter what the age of a veteran or active duty personnel, there is a program in Medfield that could lower their property tax. How much would the tax be lowered?
Well, the amount in Medfield in all cases is $500. Now, the law allows for up to $1,000, but this is another delicate issue. Let's say the town can afford to set aside $35,000 for property tax exemptions. Well, if it was $1,000 each, that'd only be 35 people that could participate. If we have it at $500 each, well, now we can double that and have 70 participate. So it's really a program of trying to get it out to as many people that need it as possible. So that's why it's $500.
How does the veteran work off the tax?
Well, the requirement is that they'll need to work 63 hours. And essentially that's $8 an hour. So the 63 hours must be completed by November 1st of this year.
Why no November the 1st?
Well, actually, the reduction of the property tax will occur in the bill that comes out in December. And that's when the $500 would be credited to their taxes. And then, of course, in January, we start a new tax work-off year. That would be the next year.
You know, so if all veterans need to work off the 63 hours by November 1st, when do they start working?
Probably it won't start this year until after May. This year is kind of a short year because we're just now getting it launched. And so we only have until November 1st to get those 63 hours worked. And then, however, next year we're going to have a program that'll be for the entire year, so the work-off for next year will begin sometime in January.
So this year actually is difficult that the enrollment for veterans under the age of 60 is on and now will end on May 1st?
Right. We're doing the enrollment now. You have until May 1st to apply for the program, and then we have to complete the 63 hours by November 1st.
And where does a veteran go to get an application to register?
And they'll get those directly from me. They can stop by Town Hall, stop at the office, and they can pick up one there. Or, if they send me an email, I will mail them out one, or they can leave me a message on my phone number. So my email is rgriffin@medfield.net, and my phone number is 906. I forgot my phone number.
Well, actually, those things happen. It's 508-906-3025.
You are correct.
3025. Those things happen, Ron.
You are correct.
Right. This program for veterans sounds real good. Okay, Ron. So you're getting the word out and hope to hear from some veterans soon.
Yes, so far I haven't had any applications, and I'm very anxious to get a few.
I'm going to, with a thought, perhaps if you make up something we can put on the bulletin board right here at Medfield TV as it constantly runs.
Certainly will. Yes, so absolutely great idea.
That would help a lot, because getting that word out is important, because
right.
all of a sudden to a veteran, that kind of money is very, very important.
Right.
Very important. Let's change the subject now. I know you have 3 articles for our citizens to consider during the year's annual town meeting. Can you discuss them?
Yes. There are 3 veteran-related articles that are going to be considered this year by Medfield citizens. All of the articles are similar in that they ask the citizens to adopt state legislation that is optional. This is legislation that was written by the state, but sometimes they go a step further and they offer the town the opportunity to adopt the legislation or not adopt the legislation. So the legislation's already in place. It's just whether or not we adopt a piece of it.
I think I understand. What can we adopt, the optional legislation or not?
Right. So let me summarize what these are. So one of the articles addresses real estate property tax exemptions for veterans with service-connected disabilities and their surviving spouses. The law was written to require residency of 5 years, but accepting this article allows the town to only have a requirement of 1 year for the veteran. So when they come into town, they have to be a resident for a year before they're entitled, as opposed to 5 years. The next article addresses a yearly tax exemption for excise tax for certain veterans on active duty. Now, we've already allowed this for active duty members. What we didn't allow it for was for people that were in the reserves or in the National Guard. So if they've been stationed outside the United States, the territorial area of the United States for 45 days, then we exempt them from the excise tax. And the third article is a delay in paying your automobile excise tax. And this again is for those in the National Guard or in the reserves. And if they're stationed or activated outside of the territory of Massachusetts, and because they could be assigned anywhere, and then it doesn't exempt them from the tax. What it does is make sure that the tax is not due, and while they're away, they can't have a penalty, and we'll wait for them to return before collecting the tax. So it's really delaying a penalty for late payment.
Well, Ron, I doubt anyone could have issued with these articles. I guess I would have thought that they were already on the books.
And again, they were already on the books. It's just that there's an option, the residency option, and then the other thing was that no one thought to include in some of this legislation the National Guard and the reservists who have been active duty, which that wasn't the traditional way that we did it. Usually, when I was in the service, the National Guard or the reserves, they never got activated. But now they are activated all the time, and it's time to go back, look at these laws, and make sure they're up to date with the times.
Well, I hope these articles all pass through the town meeting. I'd like to go back to last November when you conducted Medfield first Veterans Breakfast. I thought that was well attended and an excellent time. Will there be one this year?
Yes, I hope so. Because there's so many volunteers that make that possible, the actual cost is very, very low. And what we're doing this year is that there's a budget line item in the budget for a Memorial Day and a Veterans Day breakfast. So we're combining the two of those and using those funds. So the whole budget is for $2,300, with only $300 is going to be used towards the Veterans Breakfast.
Well, that's great, Ron. I'm so glad the breakfast night continues. What other veterans projects are you working on?
Well, as you know, as a Veteran Service Officer, I get to participate in the Memorial Day Committee. So we recently met to plan this year's event. Now, Frank Iafola will be delivering the Memorial Day address. Frank is real well known around town because he's always the person that goes out and puts the flags out in Memorial Day throughout the Vine Lake Cemetery. He runs the Toys for Tots program here in town, so he's done a lot in the town. He's put those flags out on since he's been a child. He used to walk around with his uncle Marshall Chick, my predecessor, and so as a young boy, he's been putting the flags out throughout Vine Lake Cemetery. Otherwise, we have usually it's the same format. We always solicit donations. We do have a budget of $2,000, and we exhaust it every year. So if someone could make a donation, please just make it to the Memorial Day Fund, and it needs to get to Evelyn Clark at the Town Hall. And we appreciate anything. $5 is just wonderful. Everybody that participates in the Memorial Day exercises is always volunteering their time. So there's no one that gets any salary out of this. But there are things like flowers and that we do every year. There are costs that we have. And so anything that we get to do that, to meet that is good. There's after the parade ends at the American Legion. The Sons of the American Legion, they prepare refreshments along with the Ladies Auxiliary, and they do that all volunteer. But that's a fair amount of food that's involved because there's quite a few of us at the end of the parade to get refreshments for. So we always like volunteers, and if there's anybody that wants to participate in the parade, again, they should contact Evelyn Clark at the Town Hall and tell her about their organization and why they want to participate.
Well, Ron, what else is on the agenda?
Well, the other committee that I'm privileged to be a member of is the Committee to Study Memorials. Now, this committee has several projects going on this year. So let me begin with a project that we have for the town's honor and civic squares.
Yes, Ron. I notice these areas around town. They usually are marked with 2 American flags on top of the pole.
Yes. So currently we have 12 squares and streets that we've named after folks. In each location, there was a small sign that was that told that person's story. Well, the signs are small. Over the years, the signs have gotten rusted. They're now unreadable. So we started a program to go ahead and replace those rusted out signs. And we hope to get that done through the summer.
Well, can you just refresh us on these places and where they are?
Certainly. Well, here goes. Now, these are residents who lost their lives during the war. Robert Sproul Street, and that's between Main Street and Pound Street, right out here in front of the school. There's the Vincent Paul Bravo Square, which is at the intersection of Route 27 and 109. There's Thomas Clues Road, which is off Dale Street by the railroad tracks. There's Joseph Pace Road, which is off of Thomas Clues Road, and also John Crowder Road, which is also off of Thomas Clues Road. There's Clarence Cutler Square, and it's at the corner of Main Street and Pleasant Street. There's the Richard Werner Square, and it's located at the intersection of Harding and West Mill Street. There's the O'Connor Square, which is located at the intersection of Pine and North Streets. And there's the John Ross Jr. Square that's located at the corner of Main Street and South Street. The following are made significant contributions to the town of Medfield. Peter Panciago Civic Square, which is located at the intersection of South and Elm Street. Coleman Hogan Civic Square, which is located at the intersection of North and Dale Streets. Robert Norton Civic Square, which is located at the intersection of Causeway Street and Clay Pit Road. And that's our newest sign that we commissioned last year, and it has the new sign that we are going to use for all the other memorials.
Ron, I think it's excellent because of the fact, and I've used the terminology more than once, lest we forget. These people have given their lives for a purpose called freedom. Don't let it down by forgetting. When you see a sign of that nature, it brings back memories. So how many are the newer signs?
Well, the newer signs are just bigger. So the original sign was about the size of a piece of paper, 11 by 12. And you literally had to walk right up to it to read it. Well, the newest signs are metal, and they're painted like the street sign is, so we hope that will stay legible much longer. And they're 32 inches tall and 16 inches wide. So they're a pretty decent size and very readable from a distance.
Ron, how do you have a picture? Can we see?
Right, I have a picture of one of the signs. So we have the sign for Joseph Wilson Pace. Mm-hmm. Now, sadly, his sign was stolen, so it's doubtful that even those living on Joseph Pace Road know that about this veteran who was killed at Pearl Harbor. They probably don't even know that about their street. He was aboard the USS Pennsylvania when the Japanese attacked, and you can see the signs that are in a blue field. They'll have 3 stars on the top, and the Civic Square signs, they will have the town of Medfield seal on the top. So if you don't mind, I'd like to discuss 2 new signs that we're going to dedicate on May 24th.
Please do.
So actually, these are old streets which were named after veterans who were killed in action. many years ago. We're just getting around to doing the research to tell their story. And sometimes this is a little difficult because those who can tell the story have moved away or have passed on themselves. So the streets I'm speaking about are Lee and Snyder Road. Both are located down South Street, just past Rocky Lane, and just past Rocky Lane is Wilson Street. And if you go down Wilson Street, you'll see the intersections of Lee and Snyder Road. Now, it's very doubtful that those residents that live in those streets ever realized that the streets were named after a World War II gunner on a B-24 who was shot down over France by German fighters, or the other street that honors the only Medfield resident that was killed during the Korean War.
Now, these are new streets.
Well, they're not new streets. They're older streets that we're just finally putting up a memorial sign for to inform the folks about the street on May 24th.
On the 24th of May at 10 a.m.
is when
So
we're
there
gonna have
are
the service.
other projects the committee is studying memorials working on, right?
Well, there's another project that we're working on, and that project is to update the Vietnam Memorial at Baxter Park. So when we did the research for the Vietnam Memorial at Blake Middle School, we got the word out and we learned about a lot of names that should be on the Vietnam Memorial. So we want to incorporate those names. But we realize there may even be more names than what we already done. So I've come up with about 30 names so far that need to be added there. So we're going to be asking everybody would have a little information of, if there's something missing, we want to update the names there. I understand these are all in granite. They are carved in stone, but that doesn't mean that we can't fix errors or update the stones as needed be. There's at least the 30 names that I've come up with, plus when originally the memorial was dedicated, it was determined that the Vietnam War began in 1964 through the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Well, they've since changed when the Vietnam War began. So now they go back to 1961, February 28, 1961. Yeah. So we want to also include those veterans who served during that time on the memorial plaque. So we'll be looking to do that. It's a tremendous research project, but we need everybody's help. And if you know on any memorial at Baxter Park, if you know there's any omission, we only want to make that right. And so please let me know.
Sounds good. So Ron, you need to find these missing names and put them on the memorial.
Yes, we are always interested in making sure that we honor everyone who should be on that memorial. We don't want anyone omitted.
Can people contact you directly about getting a name added?
Yes, they should contact me directly. I'll be needing a copy of the discharge papers to prove that they served in that time frame. Basically, it's a minimum of 180 days of active duty with at least 1 day of active duty between February 28th, 1961 and May 7th, 1975, which is the end of the Vietnam War. The other requirement is that they were a resident of Medfield when they enlisted. So I wouldn't be on the list because I was a resident of Franklin when I enlisted. So that's the other requirement. When we did Baxter Park, the requirement was that you went to high school there. Okay, so some people didn't get on that memorial because they didn't go to high school at that school.
Well, okay, Ron. That's just about wraps up our time for today. So just in recapping veterans under the age 60. Consider applying for the Veterans Tax Work-Off Program. Now, the deadline is May 1, 2014 to apply. Go to the town meeting and vote for the 3 veteran articles that Ron had been describing to you. Say the date, May 24th. And for the dedication of Lee and Snyder Roads, review and report on any missing names of any of the Baxter Park memorials. Plan to attend this year's Memorial Day ceremony and parade, and donations are always welcome. So, is there anything else, Ron, before we sign off?
Well, I'd like to make one more point, if I may, or a plug. And
Please.
as you know, I'm also the Shine volunteer here in Medfield. And on April 16th at 6:30 in the evening, I will be presenting what I call the ABCDs of Medicare. And there's no charge, and I'm a Shine counselor. I don't sell anything, so there's no product or services that I'm trying to advance. This is just a good chance to get unbiased information about Medicare and its Medi-choices. So if you're nearing retirement or otherwise going to be new to Medicare, and this might be very, very helpful for you. It's, we have it at 6:30 at night so that those who work can attend. And I hope to, even if you are on Medicare, you might be confused about your options. It's a good review of how Medicare works. So please, if you're interested, sign up at the Center of the Council of Aging by calling 508-359-3665 and ask them to sign you up. I knew their number, I just don't know my own number.
Those things happen. Actually, Ron, before we close, relative to the veteran, that's very, very important to the veteran. As you may know, Ron Griffin is the veterans officer here in Medfield. And if you have any questions, any situations that may arise, make an appointment to see him, especially on the tax work-off.
Well, yes.
And some of the others, Memorial Day coming up. The ABCs of Medicare, which you were discussing, on April 16th at 6:30 in the evening at the center. And that's at 1 Ice House Road. That's very, very important because there's many seniors that are very confused relative to Medicare. But again, I'm going to reiterate a point. The most important thing that a veteran can do, and the veteran has, is his service officer. If he may have a question, even though it may be a small one, make it a point to talk to Ron. You'd be surprised.
And just to follow up that, if I may, before you sign off, I like to extend that welcome to widows of veterans. Sometimes we don't think about them, and certainly I do. And so I want to talk to them, and I want to see if I can help. I don't have anything that I can give. I only have information. But sometimes, and I'm willing to work to get information. I don't know all the answers, but I'm willing to work to find the answers. I would say most of the people that come to see me never feel like they've wasted their time. I like to feel that way anyway.
One thing that was brought up, and I'm going to throw it at you. This is hypothetical. We got a veteran at home. He's disabled. He can't get out. I mean, he can sit and he watches television and so forth. Can you go to him?
Oh, I know the veteran you're talking about, and he'll tell you that I do go visit him. If you can't come to me, I go to you.
Very important. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodnight?
That's it.
Ron, I want to thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jack.
This is Jack Peterson wishing you and yours the very best. Good night.
This program was made possible through the generous support of your Medfield friends and neighbors, folks just like you. And thanks for watching.